You've just seen me play through an entire solo jumping between 3 different modes, illustrating how each one has its own unique sound. Hello and welcome back to the channel on our continuing voyage to become better guitar players. My name's Mark, and in this lesson we're going to look at 3 particular modes. That is the Dorian mode, the Mixolydian mode, and the Ionian mode, which we often just refer to as the major scale. This is because Tim Pierce has a guitar lesson called 3 Modes That Matter, where he argues that we only actually need to learn 3 modes out of the 7 modes that are available to us, but we need to know how to use them properly. In today's lesson, we're going to put this theory to the test and see if we can exploit these 3 particular modes. Before we go any further, I should say this lesson is not for beginners. It's a bit more of an advanced lesson, and before taking this lesson, you really ought to have at least a basic understanding of what the modes are, and these 3 in particular. So if you don't know your modes already, I have this video which is available, which will give you a very good introduction to the 3 modes. So in today's lesson, we're going to play over this particular chord progression. In the same way that in Tim Pierce's lesson he talks about in his video how his backing track has 3 distinct sections, I've done the same thing. We have a section in D Dorian, then we have a section in G Mixolydian, and then a section in G major or Ionian, and then we go back to the start and do it all over again. Firstly, if we look at all of these chords in this progression, well, they all actually belong to the C major scale. And so it might be quite tempting to just try and play over the whole backing track using the C major scale. But that kind of be missing the point, and that's not what we're going to be doing today. But it's interesting to note that, so hold that thought for a moment. So let's look at the 3 modes that we're actually going to use in this solo. First of all, we have D Dorian. Now D Dorian is made up of D, E, F, G, A, B and C. That's the Dorian scale. G Mixolydian is made up of G, A, B, C, D, E and F. And C Ionian, or the C major scale, well, that's made up of C, D, E, F, G, A and B. When we look at these scales, we can see that we're playing all of the same notes. So the challenge is, how do we make each one sound like a different scale? To do this, we have to think about each one differently. To think about D Dorian, well, I'm going to follow the D minor pentatonic scale and add the major 6th. That's because the major 6th in a minor scale is what really makes Dorian sound like, well, Dorian. So to emphasize that, I'm going to go to box position 1 here of the D Dorian scale. So if you think of D minor here, and we think of our D minor pentatonic, yes, we all know and love that scale. Well, we're going to add in the natural 6. Now, the natural 6 is the 12th fret of the B string. So we get this scale. Okay, and that's going to give us our kind of D Dorian sound. Then when we go to the G Mixolydian scale, well, what I'm really going to do is jump down to box position 1 of G minor pentatonic, but I'm going to add in the major 3rd, which is the 4th fret of the G string. So, and I'm going to do the same on the top E string as well, where I'm going to take the minor 3rd, but bring it up a half tone or a single fret. Now what you'll notice I do often, to make the sound bluesy, I'll hammer onto that major 3rd from the minor 3rd below it. So in our minor scale we might play this, but every time I'm going to hit that minor note, I'm going to hammer onto the major 3rd there instead. Now, if you've seen any of my blues lessons, you know I do that kind of thing all the time. So mentally, what I'm thinking is, when we go to G, I'm thinking G blues. I'm not really thinking G Mixolydian. I just know what the Mixolydian sound is because it's got that kind of bluesy sound. So for the final section, we have C major, and we can either think of this as a straight C major scale, or we can think of this as the kind of the A minor as the relative minor. If you a lot of people tend to think of major that way by going to the relative minor, certainly the way I think about it. So I go to C major, which I'm going to see here, and that scale would look like this. Okay, and I must admit I kind of visualise that around an A minor, but visualising that C chord there, and I know the notes around that. Okay, and so you get those notes around there. So having gone through all of that theory there, what I'll do now is we'll revisit that solo that you saw earlier. I'll put tab on screen, you can follow along, and then we'll come back on the other side and I'll pull all the licks apart and show you them one by one, nice and slowly. So here's the solo. So that was the solo there, and there is free tab that accompanies this lesson. The tab is paid for by the Patreon supporters. I have it professionally produced. If you would like a free copy of the tab to accompany this lesson, then send me an email. My details are in the description below, and ask for the tab for the 3-mode solo. Next time I'm online, I'll send you back an email with the tab attached. Couldn't be easier. Okay, so let's go through the licks now. Now we start in our D Dorian, so I'm going to be thinking D minor with that kind of Dorian sound, and lick 1 goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll try and do it even slower. Okay, lick 1, that was over the first half of the D Dorian section. Second half then is lick 2, and it goes like this. Nice and slow. Okay, so that was D Dorian, that's around that box position 1, and you'll notice I'm hitting that 12th fret of the B string quite a lot, because that's going to give the Dorian sound. I'm doing that both in lick 1 with those double stops, and in lick 2 when we've got the... So we kind of hit that note to really emphasize it, that gives it that Dorian sound. Lick 3, now we go G Mixolydian. We're going really bluesy. Lick 3 goes like this. Nice and slow. Okay, lick 4. Lick 4 goes like this. And nice and slow. So at lick 4, the easiest way to think of it is if you see that kind of D7 shape, but dragged up to here. So you could have a G, but from the D shape, and then the 7th version. We're basically walking around that. That's the way I visualize it. Okay, as you'll notice in there, we've got lots of that hammering on from the minor third to the major third. Okay, so that covers the G Mixolydian section. Now we're up to the C Ionian section. So the chords here are going from a C to a G to an A minor, to an F. And what you'll notice I'm doing, I play a melody line which basically just highlights that. We start with the C from the C chord. So here's a C chord. G chord. A minor. And then the F. So the actual lick goes like this. Okay, and dead easy, and it just follows those chords. One more time, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then we're up to the final two licks. We're back to the D Dorian section, and we get lick 6, and it goes like this. And nice and slow. Okay, now with lick 6 and also lick 1, you can kind of be a bit loose with those double stops and exactly what strings you're picking. I do it slightly different every time, and it's a bit loose, and sometimes I'm hitting 1 string, sometimes I'm hitting 2, may even hit 3 occasionally. Doesn't really matter, it's more the attitude that you want to play with. Okay, final lick, still in D Dorian. This is lick 7. It's almost identical to lick 2, there's just one note difference. It goes like this. Nice and slow. Okay, so that's all the licks there, that's the solo. Hope you enjoyed that. Remember, there's tab available. There's also a backing track available, so if you want to jam over this yourself, you can do. You can put these things into practice. Please check out the Tim Pierce lesson, because it's actually really good. I really enjoyed it, so much so that I wanted to try it out myself, and that's what this entire lesson came from. Take care. Thanks very much to all the Patreon supporters who support the channel and everything. I want to play you out with some improvisation over the backing track now. Hope you enjoy it. Take care, and I'll see you again.